Okay, from the top. By now you've probably taken note of the avatar I use in my videos. While I wish I could say I am artistically gifted enough to make an OC, this is actually Fig from the 2022 Japanese role-playing game Soul Hackers 2, a game I quite enjoyed when it came out, so much so that I built my entire Twitter brand around it. However, the wider gaming community does not share my opinion. So today, I want to revisit the game and see once and for all if it's just as bad as everyone says it is, or if Soul Hackers 2 is more than meets the eye. Soul Hackers 2 is a 2022 JRPG created by Atlus, who are well known for making the genre-pioneering Shin Megami Tensei series, as well as its more mainstream sub-series Persona. Their games are typically split into two parts, dungeon exploration and turn-based battles, where your team acts, and then the enemies, who more often than not are demons, act. What makes SMT and Persona unique, however, is that while you can fight demons the normal way, you can instead negotiate with them, and if successful, they can join your party later, and you can then fuse them into becoming stronger demons. Think about how Pokemon and their evolutions work, except SMT actually predates Pokemon by a whole decade. As the title suggests, Soul Hackers 2 is a sequel to the 1997 game Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, released on the PS1 and Sega Saturn, what the heck? But later got an updated re-release on the Nintendo 3DS. Now, while I have no doubt that Soul Hackers 1 is a good game, I don't really feel like shelling out money for dead consoles, or risk getting arrested for emulating something I don't own, so I won't be considering how 2 is as a direct sequel. Instead, I want to both judge the game on how it holds up to Atlus's modern releases, like Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Persona 5 Royal, as well if it's good on its own merits, to see if the game is truly worth the third pillar moniker Atlus hoped it would be. So let's now start with an introduction to the game's story.
But let's be real, this game isn't Persona or Shin Megami Tensei. This is Soul Hackers 2. As much as I enjoyed it, there is clearly not much interest around this game, so if I make a second video, I am pretty sure that it's going to royally flop.
In the distant future, an AI super being called Ion senses a coming calamity caused by a mysterious masked man, and creates two constructs, Ringo and Fig, to stop it. Their mission is to save and secure two people Ion believes are crucial to stopping this calamity, a devil summoner named Arrow, and a scientist named Ichiro Honda. Unfortunately, Ringo and Fig happen to be born 5 minutes too late, as Ichiro Honda and Arrow are both dead. But hope is not lost, as Ringo is able to bring Arrow back to life through a technique called soul hacking, where she can dive deep into a recently deceased person's subconscious and resurrect them. This works out well for Arrow, but unfortunately, Ichiro Honda is too far gone and Fig cannot revive him. But hey, mission partially successful, right? Regardless of their success rate, one thing that can't be denied is Ringo is a charismatic and charming lead character. For the first time in forever, Atlus decided to have Ringo be a fully voiced main character. Normally, SMT protagonists are either silent or have minimal dialogue. This is to immerse the player in the world, effectively having the MC being a self-insert for the player themselves. But that isn't the case with Ringo. She is her own entity with a unique voice and personality, one brought to life beautifully in English by Megan Taylor Harvey, who does an amazing job of giving Ringo a sense of intelligence, as she's an AI, but also childlike wonder and a very endearing snark. In no place is this better shown, however, than her interactions with the game's first boss.
Yo, they call me Rod Soldier, R to the S, it ain't hyperbole, cause I can kill on the beat, representing the Phantom Society. Gotta be kidding.
I'm no Reaper, but I can send you to hell. So face the music, RS, and take the L.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they...
Oof. Well, after taking care of Discount M&M, we revive another Devil Summoner, Mildy, who Arrow was tasked with protecting. We then make it to his hideout, where we get some handy exposition. Arrow works for a devil summoning organization called Yatagarasu, who are essentially the law in this neon-lit cyberpunk world. Milady is a part of a rival summoning group called the Phantom Society, whose leader, Iron Mask, is not only her ex, but also the man we saw in our premonition who wants to bring about the end of the world. He aims to do this by gathering the 7 Dragon Ball, 5 Covenants, to bring forth Shenron, the Great One, to grant 3, which rewrite reality. God dang. Right now, Iron Mask is in possession of 2 Covenants, his own and Ichiro Honda's, the latter of which is being held by his demon, Zenin. We currently have Milady's Covenant, which was absorbed by Fig after Milady got bodied by Snoop Dogg, and the last 2 are held by a freelance devil summoner named Saizo, and a Yatagarasu researcher, Mangetsu Kuzunoha. So it's our goal right now to save Saizo before Iron Mask can— oh, look at that, he's dead. Man, this is not Ringo's best day. But don't worry, we can just soul hack him and—
Go on. Get the complaining out of the way.
Hey, wake up! Ringo!
yeah, so this is the real reason Fig couldn't revive Ichiro Honda earlier. Apparently, if either of them soul hack too much, their data can get corrupted, or something. So we need to go inside Ion, who has mapped out our 3 party members' memories using Ringo's data, and created a multi-floor dungeon for us to clear. By doing this, we'll free Ringo from her corruption and gain more insight into the characters. After fending off the first boss in Arrow's sector, the severe corruption plaguing Ringo has been warded off, and now we set off to find Mangetsu, secure his covenant, and stop Iron Mask from ending the world. While I would say Soul Hackers 2 has a relatively straightforward story, it's elevated immensely by its characters. Ringo's 3 party members have a lot of tension between them, especially Milady and Arrow, who come from opposing devil summoning groups. This creates great dramatic tension, as it's made very clear that these people do not like each other, and are only working together because Ringo stressed how dire the situation is. But beyond that, there's even more to these characters' backstories. To start with Milady, I quite liked her arc actually. She starts off as very standoffish, and to be honest, I would be too if my significant other of many years tried to kill me out of nowhere. This relationship runs deep as we find out through Milady's soul matrix. Iron Mask, whose real name is Paul Taylor, saved Milady from a village that was ransacked by demons. He then entrusted her with a covenant, and it is later explained that he wanted to recreate the world so that people can thrive and be safe. This would, however, be at the cost of the current one and Milady's life. But she's more than willing to do it, as in her eyes, the benefits of Paul's world are worth creating. Over time though, Milady begins to open up to the party, and show that while she has a cold exterior, she is caring and compassionate on the inside. Next, I want to talk about Saizo. Online, his character is rather hit or miss. His arc mainly revolves around his girlfriend, Ash, a Phantom Society summoner who led Saizo to his death at the hands of Iron Mask and Zenin. Why I say his arc is controversial is a lot, and I mean a lot, of time is spent on Saizo's relationship with Ash, but not a lot of time is spent developing Ash herself. So many people wonder, why is Saizo wasting his time on someone who essentially killed him? But that's the thing, Saizo doesn't know, and his whole driving force is to find Ash and get closure on the matter and hopefully talk some sense into her. This is further compounded by the Soul Matrix, which reveals that Saizo and Ash wanted out of the devil summoning business and wanted to start a life together. Lastly, there's Arrow, and oh boy, this is where I'm going to be honest. Arrow doesn't really land for me. His personality is that of a plank of wood, despite having more importance in the story than Milady or Saizo. Something that actually makes sense considering he was originally going to be the main character before the developers decided they liked Ringo more. It's because of this that I actually want to discuss Arrow later when I go into full story spoilers, as my thoughts are heavily reliant on those endgame plot developments. For now though, I'm only now realizing that I've gone this entire video without mentioning the gameplay, so I wanted to get the chance to do that now. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there are 2 ingredients that make up gameplay in SMT: combat and exploration. Traditional SMT combat revolves around the press turn system. By hitting an enemy's elemental weakness, or landing a critical hit off physical or gun-based attacks, you can gain an additional action for your turn that you can spend on either healing up, buffing your attack, defense, or accuracy stats, debuffing the enemy stats, or just putting on additional damage. Various titles take this basic template and expand on it in their own ways. Persona 5, for example, has the baton pass system, where knocking down a demon allows you to pass your turn to another party member, who then deals bonus damage. Or Strange Journey, where the demon co-op system encourages you to think about your party composition based on story choices, as being skewed towards law or chaos aligned will determine how strong your demons are in combat. But what makes press turn combat interesting is that enemies can do the exact same thing to you if you're not careful, allowing the system to feel fair but fun as, most of the time, demons play by the same rules you do. Finally, there's the element of demon negotiation. By speaking to a demon and appealing to their unique personality, you can recruit demons to your cause and have them fight for you. They can later be fused with other demons to create much stronger ones with better skills and resistances. But it's important to be careful as say the wrong thing, and negotiations can go disastrously. Now, with all that said, how does Soul Hackers 2 innovate on this? Well, it kind of doesn't. In a way, it strips down the combat to its bare essentials. For one, demon negotiation is way too simple. You give the demon what they want, and they join you. Simple as that. You don't have what they want, or are too underleveled, they just leave with no repercussions. What's more, you don't actually use demons in combat for the most part. Instead, they're more like accessories that you put on your summoners to increase their own stats. This, in my eyes, devalues the demons in a devil summoner game, reducing them from staple allies to worn out pieces of clothing, especially since fusion is the better option for obtaining demons. But fusion in this game isn't much better as... Oh my goodness! Yeah, this is Victor, the ringmaster of the Cirque du Gomaden, and one of the 3 non-DLC returning characters from the first Soul Hackers. And he is a freaking con artist who must be stopped at all costs. I mean, look at these prices! Why is a level 20 demon over 100k Maka? For context, this is how much a level 20 demon costs in Persona 5, SMT5, Persona 4 Golden, and Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. Pretty stark contrast if you ask me. I've had times where I've come to this place with 2 million Maka and be penniless by the end because of how ridiculously expensive demon fusion is in this game. What's worse is that through side quests, you can lower these prices by a whopping 20%. This is a laughable amount considering other games in the series go as low as 50% off. So, moral of the story is make sure you have a ton of money on hand so you can afford to make this guy a multi-millionaire and not be dead broke by the end. But that's just negotiations and fusion. How's regular combat? Well, it's also very simplistic. Press turns are completely gone, and instead all allies and enemies get 1 turn each. By hitting an enemy's weakness, you add 1 demon to a stack. At the end of the round, Ringo performs a Sabbath, a powerful almighty attack that deals unblockable damage to all enemies. The power of a Sabbath increases the greater your stack counter is, and you can later obtain Sabbath skills from demons that have a chance to activate a bonus effect, such as healing, bonus damage, or stealing MP for spells. Additionally, by diving deeper into the Soul Matrix, you unlock skills for your party members that increases the number of demons they can add to a stack with a certain element. Finally, there's commander skills, which can be used to swap demons, add 1 demon to the stack counter per action, greatly decrease oncoming damage, and more. If I'm making it sound like the combat of Soul Hackers 2 has depth, it actually doesn't. All of what I explained is obtainable within the first 10 hours of this approximately 30 to 40 hour game. In other words, combat peaks a third of the way in. But that's not the biggest problem. No. The biggest problem is that combat is heavily balanced in your favor. There's only 1 enemy in the entire game who can use Sabbaths against you, and it's the final boss. Additionally, certain bosses can use Beast Die to increase their own action count. But besides those 2 exceptions, the only thing a normal enemy can do is strike your weakness or land a critical hit on you. That's it. They don't get any other benefits. And to me, this lack of challenge from enemies makes combat feel shallow, and very one-sided. Combat especially loses its challenge in late game, where tier 3 AoE magic skills like Miragi Dine absolutely annihilates enemies. This is honestly a shame because Sabbaths, on paper, is a good system. There are some bosses in this game I would have annihilated easily if I had press turns. However, because I didn't, I had to rethink my strategies. However, it all falls apart when you become just as powerful as Ion themselves, and enemies just stand no chance against you. Editor's note, I accidentally left out Mystiques, which are items dropped by demons after learning all of their skills. These items can increase your damage or decrease the cost of certain skills. But literally any elemental augment 3 or boost 1 is good enough to carry you through the entire game, so combat had potential but was ultimately lacking depth. However, I haven't gotten into what's by far the greater offense of Soul Hackers 2. The dungeons.
It's not that the dungeons are confusing or frustrating to navigate, it's actually quite the opposite. They're just bland. They're not really interesting in any way. They're mostly just boring, realistic-looking locations with demons crawling around in them, and lame excuses for puzzles. No, I can't even say they're realistic because realistic places would have furniture and decorations in them. These dungeons are just empty and have nothing else to do.
Yeah, no, they're bad. Like, really bad. They're comprised of these dark, samey hallways or drab shipping districts that are just really ugly to look at. Obstacles are put in place with no rhyme or reason, and enemies, oh my god, the enemies are everywhere. They spawn out of nowhere, almost on top of you if you ignore them for too long, and Naruto run towards you for so long it's crazy. What's actually funny is that Ringo having a dash ability mitigates this issue, but dashing wasn't always there. Instead, Melody had a summoner skill called Assassin Steps that increased Ringo's move speed for like 30 seconds. And because of how annoying these enemies are, and the fact that Ringo is the slowest video game character ever at base speed, this resulted in players having to go into a menu and spam Assassin Steps every 30 seconds just to get by. It wasn't until a patch that Ringo gained the ability to dash, and Assassin Steps was changed to have enemies ignore you for 30 seconds. Why this feature wasn't in the game at launch is so confusing to me. It's like having a Mario game where he can't jump, but it was later added, so I guess it's the thought that counts. Dashing and Assassin Steps also help finish dungeons a lot quicker, as normal dungeons can fall into one of two categories. Either a straight line to the finish, or Baphomet and his stupid f***ing maze, which is a puzzle that came out of literally nowhere and was never seen up until that point or again until the final dungeon. And while I hate this place with a burning passion, I do actually kinda wish there was more things like it in this game, which I feel is a perfect segue into the worst part of the game. The Soul Matrix.
I cannot believe this exists in a modern video game in 2022. I went ahead and just like, maybe Eru's dungeon is like, it's kind of boring because it's the first one. No, they're all like this. Sorry to say. I freaking hate the Soul Matrix. It's so, why is it the same effing color? They could just change the color. Change the color of the blocks. Make Sizer's green. Melody just red. But they didn't even do that. I'm just gonna get out of here. I cannot mentally handle anymore.
This place is hot garbage. Everything is the exact same across Arrow, Melody, and Sizo's sectors. The color palette is bland, the music is sleep-inducing, and the layout, Each sector has 5 floors. The first 2 are a straight shot to the end, the third is a maze with teleporters that go 2 ways, the fourth introduces red teleporters that go 1 way, and the fifth is a bonus stage for New Game Plus and Achievement Hunters. The game tries to spice things up by adding additional quests to do here, but the only ones I honestly see value in are the ones that give you new demons. Specifically the Mitamas, which allow you to change a demon's moveset without refusing them. The layouts of these places are also all over the place. No logical sense can be made of these puzzles. Like, what am I even looking at here? How do we go from Persona 5's uniquely stylized palaces and SMT5's large expansive overworlds to this? The Soul Matrix is a boring slog of a dungeon to get through, but unfortunately, one that is required to get the best skills in the game and obtain the true ending. Comparing this to the Labyrinth of Amala from SMT Nocturne, another optional dungeon that has a confusing layout, that place at least awards you with the best ending, the main character's best skill, the best demons in the game, and one of the hardest final bosses in Mega 10 in my opinion. All pretty good incentives if you ask me. Here, I honestly stopped going to the Soul Matrix and just recorded the true ending from another save file I had. That way, I can give you all the experience of seeing it without me going through 10 more hours of this boredom simulator. To conclude this section, Soul Hackers 2 brings some unique ideas to the table, but fails to deliver on them at every turn. Poorly balanced one-sided gameplay, empty dungeons that reward you in the most bare-bones way possible, it does nothing to innovate on the classic formula, resulting in a game with a great story that is otherwise miserable to get through. Before I go into story spoilers, I want to quickly address another common complaint with the game: the egregious Day 1 DLC. See, Atlus over the past decade has developed a nasty habit of slicing up chunks of their games and repackaging them as paid downloadable content, or DLC, in order to earn an extra buck. While this is usually inoffensive stuff like extra costumes, music from older games, maybe a fun little side level, Soul Hackers 2 has two pieces of DLC that are not that. First is the Extra Demons Pack, which costs $13. While this is normal in SMT games, and I think the upcoming Persona 3 Reload is a far worse offender than this, some of the demons here are ones that are either long-forgotten demons of Mega 10's past that nobody cares about, or fan favorites like Masakatos and the Literal Devil. But the two worst offenders are Nemissa, one of the characters from the first Soul Hackers, and Mara. Yeah, I don't think I need to come up with anything here. I think the jokes write themselves. Having all these demons locked behind a paywall is a real shame, especially since Nemissa looks really cool, and I'd love the chance to pound my enemies into submission with Mara. But this is honestly forgivable in my eyes, as there's plenty of other overpowered demons at your disposal. What is not forgivable though is the Lost Numbers side quest, which costs $10. A pretty lengthy and fully voiced side adventure where the party helps a young devil summoner named Nana uncover her past that's related to certain plot points that aren't as developed in the main game. It also offers a fifth support party member in Nana, a new dungeon to explore, and even a final super boss at the end. While it's cool to get exploration into these underdeveloped plot points, I do feel like this is something that could have easily been included in the base game, maybe as a New Game Plus incentive, or maybe a updated re-release, especially since Nana has that trademark Atlus re-release waifu energy written all over her. This is also not to mention the overpriced $90 Digital Deluxe Edition, which includes more exclusive content like a maid outfit for Ringo, costumes based off the Phantom Thieves from Persona 5, Last Surprise as a battle theme, and Iho, the game's special Jack Frost, and is essentially the game's mascot. Yeah, the game's mascot is locked behind a $90 paywall. To wrap up, most of the DLC honestly isn't that bad, but the fact that Atlus feels the need to chop up their games is just so sad. Especially since, as I touched on earlier, their newer releases are only doubling down on the problem. For now though, let's get back into the plot. Keep in mind there will be spoilers from here on out, so proceed at your own risk. The party journeys to the first abandoned subway line of the game in order to find Mangetsu, the last Covenant holder Iron Mask needs. After some mindless hallway trekking and a few bosses that are so easy I didn't even bother recording them, we come face to face with the first main threat of the game, Arrow's childhood friend and the destroyer of noobs, Kaburagi. Kaburagi acts as this game's casual filter, an early game boss that is extremely intimidating and is sort of a test. In other words, if you can't beat him, you're not beating the rest of the game. But why is this? Well, two reasons really. Kaburagi's damage output, and Leon's Seed. Seed? I'm just gonna say Leon's Seed. Kaburagi acts twice per turn and alternates between 4 main attack moves. Unfair Game and Fatal Roulette are gunfire moves that deal massive damage, the former decreasing one character's defense, and the latter hitting 2 random targets. Elect Shock gives him elemental damage, but he doesn't go for it as much as his gun skills. His last move is Execution, a powerful but telegraphed almighty attack that is unblockable, but eats up his other turn. While this is bad on its own, by far the worst problem is Leon's Seed, who follows a specific pattern. First, she'll shield Kaburagi's ice weakness with Abyssal Veil. Then she'll cast Lullaby to try to put everyone to sleep, wasting our turns. Lastly, she'll spend turns 3 and 4 casting Medea to heal Kaburagi, Kurama Tengu, and herself for a sizable amount. If left unchecked, Leon's Seed can be an absolute monster, which is why for this run I fused 3 demons with the fire spell Agi, Leon's Seed's weakness, so I could burst her down as soon as the battle started. While Kaburagi can resummon her or Kurama Tengu at any point, it's usually not for a while after they've been beaten. But with her taken care of, we can exploit Kurama Tengu and Kaburagi's weaknesses, and before long, he actually falls on my first attempt.
Yes, this is it.
Story-wise though, Kaburagi serves as a foil to Arrow, showing who he could be if he became too indoctrinated by Yatagarasu's ideals. At the end of the day, Kaburagi is not a bad guy, as shown in Arrow's Soul Matrix, but having lived most of his life under Phantom, his ideals became warped where he can no longer distinguish between his own choices and what Phantom wants of him. After dealing with Kaburagi, we find Monk Getsu's hideout, where we learn he's been watching us this whole time, but specifically Arrow. He also left behind a research journal on the Covenants that are encrypted in an old Yatagarasu language. Ringo and Fig can't decrypt the journal, so we head over to Komodori Orphanage to speak with Raven, the caretaker and former top Yatagarasu agent. And it's here where I'm finally going to talk about my favorite character, Fig, as this is when she becomes plot relevant. When creating Ringo and Fig, Aion gave them the bodies, characteristics, and personalities of a human so they can better assimilate into society. This resulted in Ringo becoming the snarky, laid-back android we play as, and Fig, while more reserved, developed a caring and maternal personality for those around her. This is especially highlighted when she first visits Komodori, where she takes immediate liking to the children, and especially Raven, for all the hard work he does. Although we find out later that the orphanage is used to recruit and train Yatagarasu agents from a young age, Fig still admires Raven for his distaste for this part of the job and his genuine care for the children. Which is why I love Fig so much. Anyone can relate to the need to protect those they care about, and I feel like Fig is a realistic depiction of that side of humanity. We'll even see the lengths she goes to later to protect her friends and those she cares about. But for now though, Raven points us to yet another subway line where Mangetsu is hiding, and we have to head there. Early on, we encounter Ash, Saizo's crazy ex-girlfriend, and we're forced to fight her. She's not nearly as bad as Kaburagi though, just make sure you can cure status ailments and you should be good. This is also true in the story, as there's clearly hesitation on Ash's end to fight us. However, that was never her goal, and she was just trying to buy time for Iron Mask and Zenin to catch up to Mangetsu. One stupid ass maze later, and we find out they succeeded and took his covenant. Iron Mask also explains how he had Zenin eat Mangetsu whole, so we couldn't revive him with soul hacking. Almost as if he knew we could do that. With the full power of the Covenants at their disposal, Iron Mask and Zenin are too strong for us, so we make a tactical retreat. But not before Saizo snags Mangetsu's smartphone, which has a last message for Arrow on it. While not acknowledging why Iron Mask didn't just take the phone when he clearly saw it was recording, we do learn a little bit more about the Covenants, but there's still data on the phone that Fig needs to decrypt. Before discussing it further, however, we learn that Iron Mask has been spotted in an abandoned tower, in the hopes that we can corner him while Zenin, who is of the Zoma race of demons, is weak to the new moon. It's an SMT thing. But it turns out to be a two-phased trap. Phase 1 is a rematch against Ash, featuring Pazuzu, which ends with her and Saizo making up. Phase 2, however, sees Iron Mask immobilizing us, and forcing Fig to give up her covenant or he'll kill Ringo. Now, I want you to pay attention to how Iron Mask is acting in this scene, as it'll be important later.
If we cannot settle this civilly, I have ways to compel you. Like so. That was your cue to scream. Try to follow the script.
Finally, it's mine. And now, the final curtain.
However, instead of giving him the real Covenant, Fig gave Zenon a fake one that had a virus within it. This virus, as a result, weakened him, and with help from Ash, we can finally fight the Edgelord Iron Mask and his dog Zenon. It's not too terrible of a fight, honestly. Just make sure you nullify Ruin, as the attack Stun Grenade really messed me up on my first playthrough. I also recommend having Tetrakarn active whenever Iron Mask uses Order, as on the following turn, Zenon will use a really powerful gun attack, which, when reflected,
You fell for it.
Zenon dies of humiliation, and Iron Mask flees with the remaining Covenants. But what's this? Something's up with the purple one. Yeah, turns out that one was a fake, and the real one is somewhere in Arrow's Soul Matrix. After defeating a boss there, we find out that Arrow used to be Mongetsu's lab assistant, and the real Purple Covenant was sealed within him to conceal it. This unfortunately came at the cost of Arrow's memories of the incident, which is why he couldn't tell us before now. While I do like this bit, it kind of feels like the writers just put this in to keep Arrow plot relevant, as his arc with Kaburagi ended way too quickly. What I would have personally done instead is have Arrow always remember he was Mongetsu's lab assistant, but have his memories regarding the Phantom Society assault on his lab be fuzzy. This would make the situation more believable, as the details could have gotten muddled due to a traumatic experience, and going through the Soul Matrix would help jog his memory. But regardless, we unearth his Covenant and go to tell Raven about this. However... Yeah, so this is the big plot twist of the game. It turns out that Raven killed Paul Taylor and has been the Iron Mask we've been chasing the whole game, which is why Melody was so set on killing him in our previous encounters. I do kind of wish Melody told us this beforehand, as she did know about this, but I understand it's because she didn't fully trust us yet. When encountering Raven at Shipping District number 2, we learned that his motivation is to destroy the world and recreate it without violence and conflict, so that the children of Komodori Orphanage can grow up in a safe world. And it's here where I have some problems. While his motivations line up on paper, you cannot seriously tell me that this Iron Mask...
Finally, it's mine.
and this Iron Mask...
That's why I need the Covenants. I'm going to end all of this. I want those kids to have a future.
are the same person. They act completely differently to one another, and while you could say that Raven was just hamming it up to make the act look more convincing to Phantom, it still comes off as extremely jarring to me. Iron Mask up until this point was pure evil with not a lot of depth. So I'd fix this by having him do uncharacteristic things of a villain. Maybe telling Zenon to go easy on Arrow, as he used to be one of the orphans Raven took care of and he doesn't want to see him hurt. But as it stands, the tonal whiplash is really weird for what is otherwise a heavily planned and foreshadowed twist. After beating Raven, a grief-stricken Fig attempts to revive him with a soul hack. When he refuses to go with her, she snaps and takes all the Covenants to carry on his will. She does this by assimilating Ion into herself and heading towards the Omni System, a device created by Ichiro Honda from the beginning of the game, that will aid her in her goals. Wanting to still reach out to her sister, Ringo and the others head to the tower where the device is located, and oh my, what is this? An actual aesthetically pleasing dungeon with a cool gimmick? Am I still playing Soul Hackers 2? This increase in quality is further amplified by having 3 whole boss encounters here. First is a group of Phantom Society summoners, who are notable for being the only boss in this run outside of the Soul Matrix I died to.
Thank you, Shin Megami Tensei.
That was weird, but I cleaned them up next attempt. Next is the Grand Executor of the Phantom Society, and the only non-DLC returning character from the first game with a 3D model. Azazel, the asserter of dominance. Get it? Because he's T-posing? Anyway, he hits hard with scary almighty attacks and physical skills that can pierce, ignoring your party's resistances except repel. Unfortunately for him, we're too stacked at this point and we take him down with little effort. Finally, there is Hozumi, Pokemon trainer from the Bones region. He's Yatagarasu's top summoner, and takes the summoner part of that title to its extreme. Hozumi doesn't attack you directly. Instead, he sends his squad of demons at you while he provides support and endless revives. If you attack Hozumi with a single target move, his demons will counter you with powerful physical or gun attacks. However, everyone in my party nulls physical and gun at this point, and their counter doesn't pierce. So we can attack Hozumi directly to our heart's content, and he goes down in no time. At the last moment, Fig tries to reason with us by showing the motivations of the other characters in the story. In order to get the true ending, we must reject all these reasons, and the party heads to the Omni system to confront Fig. Her plan is to combine the capabilities of Ion with the speed and power of the Omni system, in order to achieve a planet-wide soul hack, which would wipe the ideas of conflict and strife from people's minds, effectively creating a world where everyone will be able to live in peace. Her motivations here actually share a lot of similarities with the third semester antagonist from Persona 5 Royal. Both are trying to rewrite reality to eliminate conflict and pain from the world. However, where both their ideologies fall apart is that conflict, while terrible, helps us grow and develop as people. If nothing bad ever happened to anyone, people would just become complacent and try not to become better. Kaburagi helped Arrow break away from his indoctrination and forge his own identity. Melody's cold persona was wiped away the more she interacted with the party and the children of Komodori, and it's Saizo's determination against all odds that helped him reconnect with Ash. Lastly, it's all these lessons combined that helped Ringo become more in touch with humanity, and now she seeks to help Fig come to the same conclusion. However, it will take more than words to convince her, and now we have to face Cyber Ion, also known as Dark Fig. This fight is like the one guy you play cards with who's constantly making stuff up as he goes, as pretty much all of Fig's skills are unique with some stupid gimmick to them. She always starts off with Arc Light, a deadly almighty attack that decreases all our stats. But her worst move by far is Neo Dogma, an almighty attack that gives a party member a gun weakness. She'll then follow that up next turn by hitting said party member with 3 gun attacks. If you manage to bring her to half health, Fig will summon clones of herself and begin using commander skills to help them. This phase is honestly not as bad as the first though, and soon enough we defeat her. However, at the last second, Fig summons the Great One and we have to fight it. This boss has a lot of devastating attacks, and can even use Sabbaths if a party member is weak to anything, but at a quarter health, it'll cast a move that greatly increases their defense, and then spam a powerful almighty attack until they're defeated. Fortunately though, I loaded up my New Game Plus save file to show the true ending, so this fight wasn't trouble at all. In the normal ending, Fig fades away and Ringo falls into a depression. However, she finds new purpose in life as Komodori's new caretaker. The true ending though is achieved by beating the 4th floor of everyone's Soul Matrix dungeon. In this ending, Ringo reaches out to Fig and soul hacks her, bringing her back to her senses. The two of them reveal Ion to the world with the new goal of spreading peace wherever they go, bringing the story of Soul Hackers 2 to a close. As I've said before, the narrative of Soul Hackers 2 is heavily reliant on its cast of characters. While I like most of them well enough, and definitely think the game has some great messages, certain parts of it felt rushed and underdeveloped. Something I've said the DLC helps with, but really, who wants to pay $15 for something that should have been in the base game anyways? Who isn't an Atlas stan? But what's here is really amazing in my eyes. While the 3 party members seem like they neatly slot into the law, chaos, and neutral alignments present in most other SMT titles, they have certain nuances that help push them to the opposite ends of the spectrum. Ringo is a bundle of joy whose wonder and curiosity never ceases to amaze me, and while Raven and later Fig's motivations have questionable logic behind them, their noble reasoning to protect others makes them far more relatable. With all that said though, there's something that happened in this playthrough. I noticed a lot more that I disliked about this game. The dungeons were bad, combat could be mind-numbing at times, and I skipped a lot of the optional side content, including ignoring the armor shop for like the entire game. And I just didn't have a good time at points. But that can't be. I love this game. Or so I thought. I don't know. I need a minute to think about this.
2 hours later.
Bartender, another beer, please. Make it stronger this time.
Certainly.
Hey there, you look down.
Ringo? From Soul Hackers 2? What are you doing here?
Well, I saw you wearing my sister's face, so I wanted to tell you to stop that. But also, you just look sad and alone. And it's really bringing down the vibe of this place. So what's up?
It's just your game, man. I thought I loved it, but as I kept playing, it just became so bad. The dungeons suck, combat's one-sided, and the story's underdeveloped. The more I played, the more I honestly wondered why I even liked it in the first place.
Well, first, ouch, and second, it's okay to like something and see the flaws in it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's easy to see the faults in something. I mean, I get it. Iron Mask might have been inconsistent, Sabbaths don't provide a lot of depth, and okay, yeah, Ion could have done a little bit more interior decorating, but think about all the things you did like. The characters, the themes. Fig, you made an entire Twitter account dedicated to this game and helped connect others with similar feelings. All around this one game everyone else wrote off.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Ringo. I needed to hear that.
No problem. By the way, though, can you make an OC already? Wearing Fig's face like that is kinda creepy.
Only if I get big enough to have merch.
Fair enough.
Soul Hackers 2 is a flawed game. However, it's a case where I can look past its many shortcomings and think about the good it's done. This game gave me a platform to express myself online, and allow me to connect with others who love this game just as much, if not more so, than myself. So despite all the criticisms I have, Soul Hackers 2 is one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had, and for that, I will forever be grateful to this world and cast of characters Atlas created. Thank you all so much for watching. This project took a lot to produce, but I had a lot of fun with it. At least in the scripting and editing phases. If you like what you saw here, please consider liking and subscribing, and supporting the various individuals who helped make this project possible. Until next time, this is Jaffinator, signing off.